Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a complex story, a fascinating life, or a crucial piece of research and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge.
We make sure you walk away well-informed, often with surprising facts and context that stick with you.
Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into the tragically short, yet incredibly prolific, life and career of the actor Anton Yelchin.
It's really a study in relentless creative ambition, artistic versatility, and ultimately a unique and heartbreaking tragedy.
A tragedy caused by, well, a confluence of unfortunate circumstances and what seems to be real technical negligence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anton Yelchin, who lived from 1989 to 2016, packed a decade and a half of just relentless work into his 27 years.
And he managed to transition so seamlessly from a revered child actor into an indie cinema darling, a true artist.
While at the same time anchoring these massive blockbuster franchises, his commitment it's just undeniable.
But his life was cut short far too soon in a truly bizarre accident.
The source material we've gathered for this, it provides a very detailed chronology of his creative work.
And that offers a lot of insight into his highly disciplined approach to not just acting, but photography and music too.
Yes, and crucially, for our mission today, the sources contain the specific, verifiable facts regarding the highly unusual circumstances of his passing.
And that's what turned this from a personal tragedy into something of significant public interest and even legal action.
It did. So our mission today is kind of multifaceted.
First, we need to thoroughly understand the rapid and complex trajectory of his career. How did he meticulously navigate those dual paths of Hollywood spectacle and intense independent film?
And second, we have to factually and sensitively examine the circumstances surrounding his accidental death.
Focusing specifically on the technical details that transform this accident into what really looks like a systemic failure.
Given the nature of this topic, we have to maintain a deeply respectful tone.
Absolutely.
Our focus is strictly on reporting, analyzing, and contextualizing the verifiable facts presented in the source materials about his life and the investigation into his death.
And showing sympathy for the profound loss of such a young and talented individual.
Okay, so let's unpack this journey.
And it begins not in California where he grew up, but in an environment that really shaped his family's resilience.
Anton Viktorovich Yelchin was born on March 11, 1989, in Leningrad, which was then the Soviet Union.
Now, of course, known as St. Petersburg, Russia.
Right, and the origins of his story are just deeply rooted in defiance and professional excellence. His parents, Irina Karina and Viktor Yelchin.
They weren't just casual athletes.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They were stars. Professional pair figure skaters who headlined the renowned Leningrad Ice Ballet for 15 years.
15 years. That is a long, successful career at the highest level.
It is. Their entire existence revolved around achieving world-class athletic and artistic perfection.
But this professional excellence, it existed under this constant shadow of the Soviet state.
A very heavy shadow. The sources are clear that his family was Russian Jewish. And because of that, they experienced real religious and political oppression within that system. And this isn't just background detail. It actively shaped their lives and their careers.
So it wasn't just a general sense of unease, it was concrete. It had consequences.
So, absolutely. Tangible consequences. The political and religious pressure was intense.
And it denied them opportunities that their talent should have earned them.
Without a doubt. The sources detail that his parents were ranked nationally as the third best pair team in the entire Soviet Union.
The third best. That's Olympic level.
It meant they had undeniably qualified for the 1972 Winter Olympics. But they were barred from going.
Just barred by Soviet authorities.
Yes. And the explanation they were given was opaque, which only underscores the sort of arbitrary nature of the oppression.
He talked about this later, didn't he?
He did. Yelchin noted in interviews that the precise reason was never made clear to them. Was it purely because they were Jewish?
Or was it something else?
Or was it simply that the KGB didn't want two high-profile, successful Soviet citizens traveling to the West where they might defect?
So either way, it was a systemic barrier placed directly in the path of their aspiration.
Exactly. And this history of oppression, of, talent being stifled by political forces, it clearly weighed on the family, even decades later.
He referenced this legacy, I remember reading.
He did, sharing this sobering detail that his grandparents suffered in ways he can't even begin to understand under Stalin.
Wow.
So this environment, it bred a deep sense of resilience and perhaps a deep valuing of freedom, which you can almost see manifesting in his own later creative freedom.
And that drive for freedom ultimately prompted a massive change for the family.
A life-altering one. They left the Soviet Union for the United States when Anton was just 6 months old in September 1989.
Some sold.
They were quickly granted refugee status upon arrival in America.
That's a monumental leap. I mean, moving from the absolute apex of the Russian figure skating world to restarting life entirely in a new country.
In the San Fernando Valley of all places. But their professional skills, they did translate.
They adapted incredibly well, from what the sources say.
They did. His mother shifted into figure skating choreography, and his father continued coaching. He even served as Sasha Cohen's first trainer early in her career.
So that artistic and athletic lineage continued.
It did. And elsewhere in the family, too. His uncle is the well-known children's author and painter Anton Yelchin. The arts were truly embedded in his DNA.
There's an interesting anecdote in the sources from when they first arrived.
Yes, from the Los Angeles Times in late 1989. A woman apparently commented on baby Anton's looks and predicted he will be an actor.
It's almost folkloric, but it really does foreshadow how quickly his path diverged from the ice rink.
He later joked that he wasn't very good at the family trade of figure skating.
Now, we have to address a crucial piece of information here, something that was not public during his lifetime, but fundamentally changes how we view the intensity of his career.
Yes. The sources confirm he was born with cystic fibrosis.
And that detail it's pivotal.
It really is. For those who aren't familiar, cystic fibrosis, or CF, is a chronic, progressive genetic disease. It primarily affects the lungs and the digestive system,
Which makes breathing and just general energy expenditure incredibly difficult over time.
It requires constant, rigorous physical management. The fact that he managed a physically demanding, high-energy career while battling this debilitating disease.
He kept secret from the public.
Kept it entirely secret. It speaks to an incredible internal fortitude.
And that secrecy is understandable when you think about it, the competitive nature of the film industry.
Absolutely. Revealing a condition that could potentially affect his ability to work or endure long shoot days would almost certainly impact casting decisions.
So it highlights a private life of physical struggle lived in parallel with a public life of intense artistic output.
And this was only revealed posthumously in 2017 by the foundation established in his memory, the Anton Yelchin Foundation.
And that foundation is a direct reflection of this dual reality, isn't it?
It is. It focuses on supporting children and young adults, specifically ages 7 to 27.
Mirroring the range of his own active life.
Precisely. Young people who are dedicated to the arts but are simultaneously suffering from a debilitating disease or disability. It's a powerful legacy, connecting his personal struggle with his professional passion.
Let's move to that career itself, which began almost immediately after the family settled.
He grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and by the year 2000, he was already working professionally.
His screen debut was in a film called A Man Is Mostly Water.
Right. And from there, the credits just piled up rapidly. He had minor roles in Along, Kim a Spider, and House of D, and a spot in the Steven Spielberg-produced miniseries Taken.
But his real attention-grabbing moment came very quickly, in 2001.
That was his starring role as Bobby Garfield in Hearts in Atlantis.
Based on the Stephen King novella.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this role, it really showcased his ability to carry a serious emotional narrative, even at such a young age. He was acting alongside Anthony Hopkins.
And that performance earned him a Young Artist Award for Best Performance in a Feature Film.
Leading Young Actor in 2002. This award cemented his status not just as a working child actor, but as a seriously talented dramatic performer.
He also maintained a strong presence on television throughout the mid-2000s, which is so critical for a young actor's development.
Yes, most notably as a main character on the Showtime series Huff from 2004 to 2006.
He played Bird Huffstadt, the 14-year-old son navigating his family's crises.
But what really demonstrates his early range are the guest spots he took on.
Like the memorable 2004 appearance in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Exactly. As Stuart, the cousin who was an overly earnest, self-described magician, it's a great comedic turn.
But then you contrast that with his appearance on Criminal Minds.
A show known for its dark subject matter. He played Nathan Harris, a boy who was struggling with these violent, murderous urges towards sex workers.
And he actively seeks help from Dr. Spencer Reed in the show.
Yes. And that is an immense tonal shift. To go from light comedy on Curb to deep psychological drama on Criminal Minds. It required a maturity far beyond his years.
And this really set the stage for his major breakthrough in darker, more dramatic roles around 2006.
The shift to serious adult themes was evident in Alpha Dog.
In 2006, yeah.
He played Zach Mazursky, a character based on the real-life murder victim Nicholas Markovitz. This required him to portray just incredible vulnerability and desperation under extreme duress.
And a critical reception for that performance was stunning.
It was overwhelmingly positive. USA Today described his work as heartbreakingly endearing.
But more importantly, there was the reaction from the victim's family.
Yes. Markovitz's actual mother praised Yelchin for his sensitive and accurate portrayal of her son.
Which is the highest praise you can get when you're depicting a true-life tragedy.
Absolutely. That role established him as capable of handling complex, raw, emotional material.
From there, he moved into the lead roles, starring in Charlie Bartlett in 2008.
As the title character, the wealthy teenager who tries to navigate public high school by becoming the school's amateur psychiatrist.
A really interesting premise.
It was. And then came 2009, the watershed year that launched him onto the global stage.
He secured 2 massive, defining franchise roles almost simultaneously.
Right.
It radically changed his public profile.
It really did. The first and most enduring was Pavel Chekhov in J.J. Abrams' reboot of the Star Trek film series.
A huge role to step into.
A huge, iconic role previously held by Walter Koenig. He brought this fresh, youthful energy to the classic character.
And he anchored that role through 3 major films. Star Trek in 2009, Star Trek Into Darkness in 2013, and then Star Trek Beyond in 2016.
Right, and alongside that, in the very same year, 2009, he was cast as a young Kyle Reese in Terminator Salvation.
So suddenly, he's known globally as a key component of 2 major sci-fi tentpoles.
But here's where we see that intense artistic personality shine through.
Right. Instead of just leaning into the commercial success those blockbusters offered, he deliberately sought out independent cinema.
Yes. The sources make it very clear that he actively preferred working on indie and lower-profile films. These were the projects that allowed him to work with auteurs and established actors.
And flex entirely different creative muscles than the green screen demands of franchise work.
Exactly. The tension between that global visibility and artistic intimacy really defined this phase of his career.
So what were some of the independent projects that best exemplify this artistic preference?
Well, one of the most critically successful was the romantic drama Like Crazy in 2011. He starred opposite Felicity Jones.
That film was partially improvised, wasn't it?
It was, which demanded intense emotional intimacy and subtlety from the actors. Those are skills rarely exercised in a mega-budget film. The sources suggest he just relished the challenge of building a character organically like that.
He didn't shy away from genre work within the indie space either.
Not at all. He starred in the 2011 remake of Fright Night, demonstrating physical comedy in action.
And then he transitioned to the supernatural title role in Odd Thomas in 2013, based on the Dean Koontz novel.
He was constantly jumping between genres, really testing his own limits. He worked consistently with respected names.
Like in 5 to 7 in 2014.
Yeah.
The horror comedy Burying the X.
And The Driftless Area in 2015. But the film that truly cemented his status as a serious indie artist, particularly in the darker corners of cinema, was Green Room.
2015, directed by Jeremy Saulnier. An incredibly tense film.
It is. A brutal horror thriller about a punk band that gets trapped by white supremacists.
What made his role in that so defining?
He played Pat, the bass player. The role demanded this kind of sustained, high-stress physicality and a claustrophobic tension.
It's a very physical performance.
It is. And sources from the production highlighted his total commitment to the realism of the situation, even in the most demanding, violent scenes. It was the antithesis of the large, controlled studio environment of Star Trek.
It offered him immediate, visceral acting challenges.
Exactly. And if we look even further afield, he had roles that demanded intellectual restraint, like in Jim Jarmusch's vampire film, Only Lovers Left Alive.
Where he acted opposite Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston.
Precisely. That film required a sophisticated, subtle performance within a very moody, detached narrative.
So this incredible breadth of work, from high-energy survival horror to restrained art house drama, it underscores that he was pursuing a rapid, complete education in film acting.
He really was. And beyond live action, his voice acting career was also thriving.
He was the voice of Clumsy Smurf in the 2 live-action Smurfs films.
In the associated shorts, yes, which shows his versatility extended even to family-friendly commercial roles.
But his most extensive voice commitment actually premiered after his death.
That was the lead role of Jim Lake Jr. in Guillermo del Toro's animated series Troll Hunters, Tales of Arcadia.
And the sources indicate he recorded an immense number of episodes.
41 episodes, right up until the end of his life. Del Toro was very clear that Yelchin brought an emotional depth to the character that was simply irreplaceable.
It's a tragic footnote, but it's important to note the projects he had lined up that were interrupted by his death.
He was cast as one of the lead actors in the television adaptation of Stephen King's Mr. Mercedes.
And he passed away before filming began.
So yet another complex dramatic role was lost. And because he worked so rapidly and constantly, he had numerous projects that were either completed or partially completed before June 2016.
Can you elaborate on the volume of those posthumous releases? It's pretty staggering.
It really is. The sources list Porto, Thoroughbreds, which received very high praise from memory, and We Don't Belong Here.
It's almost half a dozen features.
And the entire Troll Hunters series. The sheer number of projects released in the years following his death demonstrates how intensely he was working right up until the last moment.
Which, again, brings us back to that potential internal clock that the CF demanded.
It's hard not to make that connection.
Now, moving beyond the screen, his artistic identity was not confined to acting. The sources show a deep, intense involvement in other artistic disciplines.
He was a true polymath in this sense. Outside of his film commitments, he was an avid guitar player.
His musical taste leaned toward acoustic blues, which reflects a deep, classical sensibility.
It does, but he also played in a punk band called the Hammerheads. His diverse musical output was later used in the documentary about his life, love, and Tosha.
And his photography. That developed into a critically recognized art form in its own right, especially after his death.
His visual art was intensely personal and often dark. The sources detail his commitment to the medium, often using analog cameras and film stock,
which requires patience and technical precision.
Again, reflecting that meticulous nature he seemed to have. In January 2018, an exhibition of his photography titled Anton Yelchin, Provocative Beauty was displayed at New York City's Dubuque Gallery.
And the work itself.
It often featured striking portraiture and self-exploration, sometimes bordering on the provocative, revealing a private, internal world he rarely showed publicly.
To put a final capstone on his personal impact, we have that poignant detail shared by his co-star, Kristen Stewart.
Yes. She described him, her Fierce People co-star, as her first heartbreak after his death.
That single detail provides such insight into the lasting, tender emotional connection he fostered with those closest to him.
It confirms the genuine warmth and impact he had outside of his professional accomplishments.
We now have to transition to the day that life and creativity ceased. The deeply tragic events of June 19, 2016.
The suddenness and the highly unusual mechanism of his death are central to understanding the public and legal response that followed.
On that Sunday morning, Yelchin failed to arrive at an arranged reversal.
And when his friends went to check on him, they found him deceased at approximately 1:10 a.m. The circumstances were just shocking.
Can you walk us through the factual details regarding where and how he was found? This is based on the coroner's report and the initial investigation.
He was found pinned between his vehicle, a 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and a brick pillar gate post immediately outside his house in Studio City.
And his driveway was on a steep incline.
A very steep incline. The consensus in the record suggests he had exited his car, likely to check his electric security gate for mail, or perhaps to manually open it.
And the vehicle rolled back.
The vehicle rolled back and trapped him against the unforgiving pressure of the pillar and the adjacent security fence.
The force must have been immense, given the weight of a vehicle like that.
It was. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office later identified the official cause of death as blunt traumatic asphyxia.
And they confirmed there were no obvious suspicious circumstances involved.
Correct. It was determined to be a pure, shocking, and terrible accident.
We have to note the age at which he passed. 27, which is a detail that the sources specifically highlight.
Yes, the source material notes his age, which inevitably places him in the context of the 27 Club.
That unfortunate collection of artists whose lives are cut short at that precise young age.
But in Yelchin's case, the tragedy is uniquely compounded by the fact that his death was linked directly to a known, documented vehicle malfunction.
Rendering it entirely preventable.
Entirely preventable. And here is where the discussion must shift into the systemic, technical, and legal domain.
The vehicle involved, the 2014-15 Jeep Grand Cherokee, was already the subject of intense scrutiny.
This is the crucial detail. Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, or FCA, the manufacturer, had a well-documented awareness that this particular model had an unusually high rate of rollaway incidents.
Drivers thinking they were in park and the car silently rolling away.
Exactly.
What was the specific technical flaw that caused this lethal confusion for drivers?
The issue centered entirely on the gearshift design. It was known internally as the E-shift, or electronic gear selector.
And how did that differ from a traditional shifter?
Traditionally, a gear lever physically locks into place when you select park. You get immediate tactile feedback, a physical click, or a stop.
You feel it.
You feel it. But the E-shift lever was designed to return to a centralized, fixed position after the driver moved it, regardless of whether they selected drive, reverse, or park.
So wait, the visual indicator on the dashboard was the only way to confirm the car was actually in park?
That's the critical flaw. Drivers who were accustomed to traditional shifters would nudge the lever forward, assume they were in park when the lever returned to center, and then exit the car.
And the vehicle, still in neutral or gear, would roll away.
Yes. This lack of physical feedback led to hundreds of reported incidents of property damage and, tragically, injury.
And FCA was fully aware of this high rate of rollaway incidents prior to Yelchin's death.
They were. In fact, FCA had already issued a recall for all affected 2014 and 2015 Grand Cherokees in April 2016.
2 months before the accident, they knew the danger was real.
They knew.
So if the recall was issued in April, how did this still happen in June? This is the most shocking aspect of the timeline.
The problem was the speed of the technical fix. The necessary repair wasn't a hardware change, but a software patch.
A digital update.
A digital update designed to force the transmission into park automatically if the driver's door opened while the car was running and not correctly in park.
But that software patch was slow to materialize.
It's very slow. The sources confirm that the fix did not physically reach dealerships for installation until the very week of Yelchin's death in June 2016.
That is an unbelievably narrow window where the intervention could have happened, but hadn't yet been implemented on his specific vehicle.
It highlights a massive failure in the execution of a critical safety repair.
And the sources indicate that following his death, FCA accelerated the recall campaign substantially.
The tragedy effectively forced a faster, more widespread installation of the safety software. It confirmed the grave urgency they already knew existed.
The legal proceedings were a clear reflection of the severity of this negligence.
They were. In August 2016, just 2 months after their son's death, Yelchin's parents, Victor and Irina, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Fiat Chrysler.
And their primary motivation was to ensure accountability for the faulty design that took their son's life.
It was.
What were the specific claims made by the defense? The specific dealership involved in selling the car was also named.
The defense was quite aggressive. The dealership named in the suit attempted to shift the blame entirely onto the victim.
How so?
They alleged that Yelchin had misused and modified the vehicle, suggesting his actions were the proximate cause of his death, not the faulty gear selector. They asked the court to dismiss them from the lawsuit.
That strategy, attempting to blame the deceased for a known design flaw, must have been a highly fraught legal maneuver.
It was, and ultimately, the case did not proceed to a public trial.
They settled.
Yelchin's family and Fiat Chrysler reached a confidential settlement out of court in March 2018.
And while the terms remained private, the settlement concluded the legal chapter, acknowledging, at least privately, the connection between the vehicle design and the accident.
It did.
The tragedy spurred immediate and widespread tributes, particularly from the cinematic worlds he helped define. The Star Trek franchise showed immense respect.
Yes, the decision made by the Star Trek producers was profound. The role of Pavel Chekhov was officially retired.
And it will not be recast in any subsequent Star Trek film.
Which is a rare and powerful tribute in a franchise known for regeneration and reinvention.
And his final Star Trek film served as a dedication.
Star Trek Beyond, released in 2016, was dedicated to both Anton Yelchin and the original Spock, Leonard Nimoy, who had passed away earlier. The loss was felt deeply throughout the cast and production team.
They'd worked closely with him for 7 years at that point.
Right. And the memorialization spanned his entire body of work, from big-budget films to smaller, independent projects and animation.
Multiple films released after his death carried dedications.
Thoroughbreds, Rememory, Porto, the family film Smurfs, The Lost Village. Furthermore, the entire animated series Troll Hunters, which concluded in 2018, was dedicated to him.
The physical memorials established by his parents and peers are an equally powerful testament to his impact.
In October 2017, a beautiful bronze statue of Yelchin was erected at his grave in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
And the unveiling was a major industry event.
It was, attended by so many high-profile peers and collaborators: Zoe Saldana, Simon Pegg, J.J. Abrams, Jennifer Lawrence, Jeremy Saulnier. It reflected the vast network of respected relationships he had built across genres.
And the Star Trek universe has continued to memorialize him within the fiction itself, ensuring his name remains alive in the canon.
That's one of the most touching aspects of his legacy. He was honored with a memorial plaque in the video game Star Trek Online.
More subtly, a Starfleet vessel named the Yelchin has been mentioned in Star Trek Discovery.
But perhaps the most emotional nod came in a 2023 episode of Star Trek, Picard.
I remember this.
The original Chekhov actor, Walter Koenig, voiced Chekhov's son, and that son's name was Anton.
It was a beautiful, multi-layered tribute bridging the past and present of the franchise.
It really was.
And finally, his parents ensuring his full story, The Life Beyond the Roles, is available through their documentary.
Victor and Irina Yelchin premiered Love and Tosha, the documentary they presented about their son, at the 2019 Sundance Film Festival.
And it provides an intimate, exhaustive look at his creative life.
Using extensive archival material and interviews with so many of his collaborators and friends, it really reveals the complex individual behind the famous roles.
As we synthesize the information from this deep dive, the incredible breadth of Yelchin's work really stands out. We have the technical rigor required for the franchise work, contrasted with the intense focus and emotional complexity of his indie roles.
Roles like in Crazy in Green Room. The definition of his career lies precisely in that contrast. He refused to coast.
He pursued artistic output aggressively across all mediums, acting, photography, music, as if he knew his time was limited.
Which leads us back to the crucial, unmentioned variable during his life, his fight with cystic fibrosis.
That is the critical factor we need to integrate fully into our final thoughts. The sources indicate that the intense passion he brought to his diverse creative pursuits.
From the physical demands of action films to the solitary, precise work of acoustic blues and complex photography.
Was being undertaken while he was privately managing a debilitating, life-limiting disease.
Knowing he had that private struggle fundamentally changes the perspective on his public output.
It suggests that his relentless drive wasn't just ambition.
It was a race against time, a conscious effort to pack as much authentic, meaningful artistic experience into his limited lifespan as possible.
His dedication to authenticity, whether through the physically grueling nature of a role in Green Room or the intimate self-portraiture of his photography, it gains an even deeper resonance when you view it through that lens.
The lens of a person consciously maximizing their creative footprint.
So if we step back and reflect on his complete life's work, and the foundation his parents established to help other young artists facing similar challenges, how does this knowledge of his finite physical capacity, paired with infinite creative ambition, change the way we should view the impact of his art?
It encourages us to look beyond the character and see the fierce commitment to living a fully realized artistic life.
A life which was tragically and senselessly cut short by an avoidable technical failure.
And it raises that powerful, final question. How many more groundbreaking performances, powerful photographs, or innovative pieces of music might he have created had that critical manufacturing delay not intervened?
His legacy isn't just defined by what he achieved, but by the staggering volume of potential that was lost.
A profound life, prematurely ended, but leaving behind a body of work that continues to challenge and captivate us.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.